What's up, New England, MMA and beyond? The Room Podcast, bringing you the 2021 end of the year New England MMA rankings with my business partners, my buddies, my family in the New England MMA community, Lars Borson and Travis Halot. Happy New Year, guys, man. This is the first time I've seen your faces other than, just texting back and forth, man. How was your holidays? First, Lars, man, how was everything going, man?
Good, man. It was the holidays. I got two younger kids, so it's Christmas is kind of based around them. A little bit of traveling. Went up to Burlington, Vermont. Saw my brother up there. Turned 40 a couple days ago, so that was a tough pill to swallow, but we're here.
Well, you're a big family man. Well, I would say big family man because you have what, 2 or 3 children running around the house. So, man, that's something special at this point at their ages, man. Did you get any sleep over the holidays?
Yeah, I got some sleep. It wasn't too bad. Just doing last minute shopping like I do every year, and just getting up early to open up presents, and ringing in the new year and turning the big 4-0. It's been a hectic few weeks, but we're and we've had a little downtime when it's come to regional MMA, which has been nice. Kind of give you some time to focus on family. But we're starting to heat back up here. I think it's exactly 1 month from today. We should be down in Plymouth, Mass at Cage Titans 51.
Excellent. Well, we'll get to you now, Travis, man. You don't have many kids running around except for a cat that is your child. And man, how was your Christmas, bro, on the farm there in Maine?
Well, we do have another family that lives with us, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and their 3 kids. So I got to enjoy it I get to play uncle this Christmas, which is always nice. Spoil the crap out of them and then lock them out of my portion of the house. You know how that goes. But no, things are going pretty good. Aside from the fact that I had some recent knee surgery, I may have done a little damage to on Christmas Day, bringing some gifts to old Sandy's sleigh. But yeah, other than that, everything's been pretty good. Missing the MMA thing. I'm not really missing it. We got a lot going on with the management side of things. We are, Christmas, making the track, looking for sponsors for some guys we got coming up on Cage Titans. Looking for maybe a sponsorship or 2 for Blaine Shutt, who's going to be fighting at Belletto. So we've been doing some stuff behind the scenes, but it hasn't made it into content on the website for a little while. So I'm happy to be out here, happy to be doing this tonight.
Excellent, man. Happy to have you guys back in the room. What I'm planning on doing in next week is starting to hit all the fighters in them cards, on them cards you spoke about. The Neff card, the Cage Titans card, and I was just waiting for the Cage Titans, their awards to get over with because I couldn't hit everyone, and I didn't think it was fair if I interviewed a guy that was nominated and didn't interview someone else, so I kind of left them alone until the awards got announced, and they're announced. So full throttle next week. I'm hoping to do a podcast with you guys, if not once a week on a certain night, or random nights when we can all get together, or at least once every couple of weeks to just check in and talk about either our management or New England MMA in itself, just you know what I mean? So I'm looking to chat in 2022 about everything, not just MMA, about behind the scenes, everything that has to do with anything going on with anything at this point. I just want to gab and talk. So with that said, guys, we're here for a special night. It is a lot of hard work went into these rankings. And Lars, I'll let you talk a little bit about it. We don't want to spend too much time, but I'm going to let you talk about how they came together, how many people made or weren't involved, and then we'll talk about the sponsor who is sponsoring the show tonight and actually sponsoring the rankings for us. So, Lars, go ahead.
Yeah, these rankings are a pretty big undertaking. We take pride in it. We feel like we have a pretty good grasp on the scene here in New England as to who's doing what and who's kind of up and coming and whatnot. So We also incorporate some other media members and some promotions. We did a fan vote the initial time, but it was just too much work gathering the fan vote. And to be honest, there's too much bias involved with the fan vote. So we kind of narrowed it down this time. We did media and promotions. We had 11 or 12 different individuals submit rankings. So we feel like there's, a good breadth of opinions here. It was us three who submitted rankings. Then we had one of our colleagues, Brendan Boats, who submitted rankings. Then we had Travis Sinclair from Western Mass MMA. We had Jarrett Kelly from Fightbook MMA. We also had Ryan Jarrell, who kind of does his own thing. And then we had a number of promotions who submitted rankings as well. So we tabulated all those, we combined them all together, and that's kind of where we landed. So it isn't just one person sitting down, pen to paper, and kind of making their own rankings. We get a good swath of opinions that we kind of bring in together to create these. Initially when I put out the vote tabulation spreadsheet, we have, God, what is it, 18 different weight classes between amateur and pro. And I try to include as many fighters in those weight classes as possible. Some weight classes are thinner than others, but we typically have about 300 fighters that we incorporate into those rankings that you can vote on. And then we narrow it down to, our top 10 ideally. So pretty big undertaking. We've been working on it for 3 or 4 weeks now. And we're pretty happy with where we stand. When you look back at these rankings at the end of the night, you'll think, yeah, they're solid. So, I'm pumped to be here and to announce these. We also brought on a sponsor for the rankings. One of my good friends, Gabe DeSeverio out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. He owns his own hot sauce company, the Spicy Shark. I got some of his products here. I've known Gabe for a while, and if you're a hot sauce fan, check out, thespicyshark.com. I wasn't really a big hot sauce fan until Gabe kind of got me into it, and now I use these hot sauces pretty much at every meal that I have. They have everything from, this is the original habanero, which is my favorite, and they're all named after sharks. Gabe is a big shark fan. So he names all his sauces after sharks. This is the Thresher Shark, which is a chipotle. And as you can see on the side here, they each have like a fin. That's how hot they are. So it's like a 1 to 5 fins, depending on how hot they are. Then I also got a Caribbean reef shark here, which is a Scotch bonnet. They also do a wing sauce, which is really good. A blueberry kind of hot sauce, not really a hot sauce, but like a syrup, a blueberry syrup, spicy syrup. So check them out, thespicyshark.com. They're based out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We've got a partnership with them now. You can go on their website and order anything. Enter code NEMA, NEMMA, and you get a 10% discount on your order moving forward. So it's definitely, if you're a hot sauce fan, give them a try. Like I said, the best hot sauces I've ever had, and they got a ton of flavor. It's not just heat, it's flavor. They're not made from extracts, they're made from real, actual peppers. So I put it on everything. He's probably got about 10 or 12 different products out there. So check out thespicyshark.com, enter code NEMA, get a 10% discount, and tell him New England MMA sent you.
Excellent. Well, we'll embed, put his website on this podcast on the YouTube and all that other stuff. Give him, give these people some link to click on real quick. I did show his Instagram while you were speaking about it, and showed a little bit of, what's going on there. He's got a ton of followers on Instagram, over 7,000. So they're doing a lot of things right, man. When you got that many followers, as far as, a small business like that, man, kudos to you. So, dudes, congratulations on, the rankings, getting this done. And as you said, Lars, it wasn't just the three of us. There was quite a bit of MMA knowledge and media that took these rankings very serious, because, as I posted Tapology, man, you look at their rankings and who's ranked in New England as far as divisions, man, they have a couple of them that are close or maybe, on, but there's a lot of other names on there that are just got to be shuffled around. They're not right. So, guys, we got a lot to go through. So I tried to kind of the first few rankings, kind of put them all together because they're not. I don't want to say the most popular, but they're the most thinnest, and not as much activity coming out of these weight classes, which are the New England heavyweights, light heavyweights, amateurs and professionals, and the women's. We don't have women's divisions. It's mostly pound for pound best because we don't have enough women in the New England area to make, different divisions. We'll have one, three in each division, if that. So with that said, Lars, we're going to cover and announce the heavyweights, pro and amateur, light heavyweights, pro and amateur, and the women's pound for pound, amateur and pro. So I'm going to put that up now.
And I think it's important to note, Steve, that the last time we did rankings was a year and a half ago. I think it was, summer of 2020. Pandemic was kind of in its infancy, and we haven't put out rankings since then just because there's really been no activity. Like the regional promotions just started kind of getting active again this summer. So we wanted to give it some time, let some guys get some activity in before, because, why put rankings together if no one's fighting? So this kind of gave everybody 6 or 7 months to be active, to reevaluate. We had to kind of loosen up some of our activity stipulations due to COVID. So we were a little more lenient on that. But for the most part, these are the most legitimate rankings you'll ever going to see in New England. Steve, Travis, and I, we know this game better than anybody else in the region, in my opinion. And, we've seen thousands of fights, and we pretty much go to every show and see them live. So we get to see these guys in action, in the cage, and evaluate their talents. So, we think you can't get any better than this. Topology can go fuck itself.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. And our pictures are better too. With before we get started, go to NewEnglandMMA.org. Check yourself out on there. Check, look up your stuff, man. There might be videos, interviews, stuff linked to your personal page there. So go check it out. We know you're going to be there in the next couple of days because these rankings will be up on the site for you people to go take screenshots and send them out. But please give us some credit when you do send them out. If you do screenshot some stuff, which we don't mind, just give us a little credit, tag us, and let people know that it came from a legit source. At least 13 New England MMA media and promotional members here. So with that said, drum roll, please. Yeah. The first 4 categories, I'm going to throw them up there. We have New England heavyweight pros, heavyweight amateurs, light heavyweight pros, light heavyweight amateurs, women's pound for pound pro, and women's pound for pound amateurs up on the screen right now. Lars, man, let's talk about it. Like I said, man, these are the most difficult ones to kind of rank since there's so, as you can see, light heavyweight, there's not many to choose from there. So Lars, let's talk about it, man. Jorgen De Castro is our #1 heavyweight in New England, and as he should be. Let's talk about your opinions on these guys because you guys do most of the writing and the analytical parts of this site. So let's talk about what you're thinking about these rankings, and let's just go with it.
Let's talk it up. Yeah. Now, I mean, pro heavyweight, it's kind of a thin division, so we only rank the top 5 here. I think Jorgen De Castro is a clear-cut #1. He wasn't in our last set of rankings because he was signed with the UFC at that point. So now that he's back on the regional scene, he picked up a win at CES a few months ago. He's 7-3, looking to kind of get back to the big stage. He's a clear-cut #1. And, Domingo Barros, who's his training partner, who won at Premier recently over Ras Hilton, who comes in at #5. Number 6. We made this in top 6. Number 6. Domingo 7-1. So he's got a great record. Obviously, those two will probably never fight. But I think this was, a pretty clear cut ranking here. What do you think, Travis?
Yeah, this is a good one. I mean, Terrence, you see him up there. I think of him as more of a light heavyweight, but he's hung around in that heavyweight division before. He's beat Ross Hilton, so he deserves to be up there. I think everyone's pretty much slotted where they should be. Yeah, I can't really argue it. That's a pretty cut and dry one. I mean, for the sake of argument and for the sake of fueling something that we've heard on social media before, we should have done Tyler King and Ross Hilton 5A and 5B just to see where that put us. But
it's kind of funny. It's funny you mention that because with these thinner divisions, we did a top 5. But when I did the tabulation, it was Tyler at 5 and Ross at 6, and I said, "Screw it, I'm throwing this one on. I'm throwing 6 on this one just because we know the talk that's been going back and forth between Tyler and Ross. I'm like, let's put him on there as well." So, 5 and 6. There's been a lot of chirping going back and forth, and we'll see if they.
Yeah, might as well throw a can of gasoline on the fire.
Yeah, why not?
Now, Lars, we're I switch back and forth from the rankings to our beautiful faces, but as far as this, were there any kind of on here? I know some fighters are possibly signed, might have fought for another organization here. How hard was it for, I mean, it was kind of tough for us to categorize who could be eligible for these rankings on some of the divisions, you know what I mean? Some people out there might be going, well, why is this guy on the rankings and why isn't that guy on the rankings? As people are looking this over, these 4 different weight classes, we'll get to the women too and the light heavyweights, but Lars, explain kind of how how that method came up, how you made that decision,
Yeah. So essentially what we're doing here is if you are a New England based fighter, you train in New England, but you fight outside the region, we're still going to include you in our rankings. There aren't many guys that, one comes to mind is Kyle Bocchniak. He's a New England based fighter, but he hasn't fought New England for a while. We still included him in these rankings because he truly is a New England based fighter. Now, if you're based outside of New England, you have to fight inside of the region. And oftentimes it's not just you fight once and you're gone. You need to fight within the region within the last year and a half.
Or hold a belt.
Yeah, or hold the belt. And then, we also had to look at if you're signed to the UFC, you're not included. If you have a multi-fight deal with Bellator, you're not included. If you just do a one-off fight with Bellator, we're still going to include you. When it comes to activity, we had to put some leniency on that due to COVID. So typically we're looking back a year and a half, 2 years that you need to have been active. Some of these divisions we need to, for the pro heavyweights and the heavier divisions and the women's, we need to make some exceptions just to kind of have a full ranking here. But that's, essentially what we did.
Excellent.
Yeah. I just want to chirp in there because there's I mentioned having a belt. George Tokos is on the light heavyweights. He's from England, I believe. And he came in and won the premier belt against UG. So he's fought one time in New England, but he's been one of those guys regionally. Like he's pretty well known, and he won the belt against UG. So he ends up on those rankings there. And then, as you mentioned, there's been rumors that Jorgen De Castro has signed a 3-fight deal with Eagle FC, which is going to be Khabib's promotion. So we'll have to see how we weigh that in the coming months, if he's back on top there, or are we considering that an international promotion or a larger promotion with a 3-fight deal, that might bump him out of the top spot there. But, I mean, we're looking for all we can get to fill the rankings at the heavier weight classes. But it allows also for guys that are up and comers like Yuri Panfarov to be ranked in a top 5 with only 1 fight under his belt. But he kind of deserves that spot. I think it goes without saying that this actually should bring some shine to some guys who might not get it on a national level. So I'll touch on the heavyweight amateurs real quick too. That's another tough one. A lot of those guys are Vermont guys that we haven't had a whole lot of contact with. Jeff on top from South Shore Sport Fighting, I believe. So he's one of those guys. He's fought at Cage Titans, but he won the belt for Rex's promotion, Donnybrook. So he's the heavyweight champion for Donnybrook. So he belongs on top, in my opinion. He trains out of a nice gym. Those are tough divisions for us. But like I said, I think as far as the pro ranks go, people are slotted right where they should be. And aside from the top couple on the amateur side, a lot's up for grabs there.
Yeah, and
I think.
Go ahead, Lars.
The amateur heavyweights. There's a couple guys on the AMI heavyweights that caught my eye and surprised me this year, who are 1-0. One is Hassan Graham. He's ranked number 3. He fought at Premier and beat Max Lombardo in a knockout, impressive fashion. He was impressive there, so he deserves to be number 3. And then also Nayu Shar, who's number 7. He's also 1-0. He fought at Combat Zone and laid somebody out with I don't know much about either one of those guys, but what I saw in person at those 2 events, they deserve to be on this ranking. So 2 guys who are just 1-0, but they're getting some shine, and keep an eye out for them.
And as we're gonna get to the women now, but there was, like I said, over 10 or maybe a dozen people that voted on these or ranked these people. Some of these fighters, I mean, you haven't seen much of them, so there's some little difficulties. I mean, unless you haven't fought recent, you kind of out of mind, out of sight kind of thing. But if you really got into these rankings, you looked on Tapology, even though I don't want to look on Tapology, but you looked because it shows when they fought and who they fought. And a lot of times, like you said, Lars, even if you have 1 or 2 fights, man, and someone else has 4 fights, those 1 or 2 fights that you have against, 10 times better the opponents than the other guys are going to be factors in the rankings also. I mean, the opponent has a lot to do with it also, I think, in these rankings.
Yes, I agree. It's not just about record. It's about performance in the cage and potential as well. That weighs more heavily on me in these regional rankings than records does.
Excellent. Well, let's get to the women, bro, and then we'll start from the middleweights down. Like we said, the women are kind of hard to do. Last ones we did pound for pound too, because like we said, there is just not enough women out there in divisions and active for us to make different weight classes. So let's talk about who we have here in the tops.
Yeah, Travis, take it.
Yeah, no, we'll start with the pro women. Jessie Miley, she has to be the number 1 pound for pound. She's fought Leslie Smith and Bellator. She's a mainstay in Bellator, so she has to go number 1, just because she's the best goddamn woman in New England. After that, Hillary Rose, she's fought for CFFC. She's fought for CES. She's always a warrior. So we like to have her as high up as possible. But the next one I like to talk about, MMB. She's a tough girl. She's fought for Invicta a couple times, so she belongs right up there. I have to say, and I always say this, for some reason, my dark horse as a professional woman is always Kylie O'Hearn. You never know what's going to happen when she makes it back into the cage. She's had a little trouble recently making it to the cage, but she's always that anomaly for me because she's got such a fierce way about her. So she always makes it into my rankings regardless. I think the rankings are pretty good here. Maria Rivera comes in at number 10, and it's one of those things where she fought at CES twice and looked amazing. Looked very, very good. I remember she fought Jessica Sotak and then somebody else. I can't remember the first fight, but she looked absolutely unstoppable, and we've basically lost touch with her. I've reached out to a few people asking where she's been. I don't really know what's going on with her, but if she ever fights in New England again, she could probably be bumped up a couple spots on that list. Going down to the women's amateurs, we got some mainstays up top with Ashley Barrett, Adina, who hasn't fought in a while, but is a fierce, fierce competitor. So she belongs up there. Megan Rosado out of, she trains with what is it?
Evolution
Athletics. Yeah. Why can't I think of that? Evolution Athletics, and she's definitely a very talented individual. We got our own Chelsea Tucker, who hasn't made it to the cage, has been training more on our side of the things for a little while, but anytime she steps back in the cage, she's a great amateur. But then you go to Aaron Johnson. Aaron Johnson, I honestly think, could be number one on this list. If it weren't for the experience of the other girls. Aaron Johnson's got, the 1-0 record in MMA. She competes in Muay Thai a lot. She's the other side of the Conor Matthews train too. So those two can sharpen each other's skills together out of Lozon's. And I think that's one girl that we need to really keep our eye on this list.
Yeah, she's actually fighting on the 22nd for No Boundary again. As you did mention, Travis, she does do some Muay Thai, and she's doing the Muay Thai basically not only to get the hands, to catch up with that ground game she's got, but she ain't able to get fights. I mean, things fall through. These women, just like we say, that's why it's hard to make a ranking for the divisions for them.
Yep. Yeah, there's a couple things that stick out in my mind in these two lists here. So the pro women, 1, 2, and 3 didn't change from our last rankings. 1, 2, 3, and 4 actually. Glory Watson making an appearance at 1 and 1 at 7. Glory's got a lot of hype around her. And then on the amateur side, to Travis's point, Aaron Johnson was one I could easily put at number 1. We've only seen her in the MMA cage once, but we know she trains at a legit camp at Lozon MMA. She's getting experience in Muay Thai right now. Another win for her in the amateur ranks, and she's easily in the top 1, 2, or 3. But Ashley Barrett, her last time out, wow, that was impressive. There just isn't a ton of activity when it comes to the women's division, both pro and AMI. So if you're a woman and you're training and you're thinking about getting a fight, hop in there and see what you got, I'm really interested to see where Aaron Johnson goes from here and what happens with Ashley Barrett too. On the amateur side, 2, 3, and 4 haven't been very active, so there's a lot of opportunity to move around on the amateur women's side.
Excellent, my man. Well, there you go. 6 categories down, 755,000 to go. We're going to try to we put up 6 categories right there because as we said, they were the thinner ones. But now, we're going to be talking about the middleweights down. Guys, what do you want to do here? Do you want to do all the pro first and then the amateurs? You want me to rotate pro to AMI in each weight class? How you want to go here?
I think we do pro to AMI in each weight class. I think we should start with AMIs.
Wait, that's not what I have.
Can we?
That's not what I have ready. I have.
I'm making it too difficult.
I have middleweight pro ready. If you want to talk about that.
Oh, let's go middleweight pro. Let's roll it.
All right. So hold on. Let me get it up here. So where are we? All right. Let me get Lars's face off that. I hope people can see. Now I'm using the pro version of this thing. So let's see if that works. So we're gonna get the middleweights right now, and guys. Let's talk about it. The middleweights are up right now. So who do we got here? Justin Sumter. Guys,
yeah. I'm waiting for it to pop up on my screen.
Yeah, it takes about 20 seconds. We're on a 20-second.
Yeah. So I got it on my screen here. Number 1, Justin Sumter. He I wouldn't say he's an obvious number one, but he's one of the first guys that comes to mind. He, he wasn't on our last rankings because he was signed with UFC. He's now back on the regional scene. He had a nice win at CES recently, I think, and he looked very impressive. He deservedly should be number one. Tim Karen, longtime mainstay. He's on a little bit of a slide right now. I think he's got maybe a 3-fight losing streak. He's still that losing streak. You got to look into it. He's fighting some really tough guys. He fought Kyle Stewart on LFA, I believe, which Kyle Stewart's a beast. He also lost in the Contender Series. And he most recently fought at Premier, I believe.
Yep.
And I can't remember who he fought there, but it was another really tough dude. But Tim Karen's a stud. He deserves to be up there. And you got Eric Spicely at number 3, former UFC guy as well. So those top 3, I think, are legitimate. Sumter at number 1, I wholeheartedly believe in. He was my number 1 as well. And then, going down the list, Pat Casey at number 5. He's more of a welterweight, but he kind of fights at middleweight a little bit. And then you got 6 and 7, Hugh McKenna and Pat McCrohan, who actually just fought each other at CES, with McKenna coming out on top. And then, going down the list, one guy I think you want to circle and kind of keep on your radar, two guys, Tommy Lee Davis at number 9 and John McNeil at number 10. Both these guys, I think, have some talent and can do some pretty exciting things here in the future. Tommy Lee Davis, he hasn't fought in a while, but man, that guy's got some skills, and I could see him shooting up these rankings pretty quickly if he gets some activity here in the coming year.
Excellent. Travis, anything you want to add to that as far as, Lars went through them pretty good, but
that pretty much sums up. The one other thing, you got Mark Gardner there. His last fight was at welterweight against Nick Alley, but he's
actually that's Zach. That's Zach.
You
Richards.
are right.
That's Zach Richards, not Mark Gardner. Zach Richards.
Yes, that's right. I don't even know who Mark Gardner is anymore. It is Zach Richards.
Inside joke, people.
I don't know what he's doing on this list.
That's a typo. Number 8. For sure.
So guys, I think isn't any of these guys ready, have fights lined up? Do you know?
Not that I know of.
Nothing.
Nope.
Nothing to move this list on the beginning of 2020. And like you said, Lars, a guy to watch here is Tommy Lee Davis, man. That guy cannot get a fight to save his life. It isn't like he's fishing every week for a fight, but we have tried to get him a matchup because, we've gotten messages about we need a 185er here and there. And things just don't work out for the kid, man. I feel bad, dude, because he is a legit scary dude in there when he's in the cage.
Yeah, and he's coming off a long layoff. So, I talked to Sean Lally the other day. There was an opportunity that arose, and I reached out. Sean Lally's pretty much his coach, buddy, training partner. And, Tommy has had a little bit of a layoff, so I think they're looking to kind of strategically get him back into the flow of things. I would suspect it'd be on the regional scene if they could. They're probably gonna have to fly somebody in to fight him, maybe. But for him to go take, a fight at Belletto or something like that against the killer with that long of a layoff, it probably doesn't make sense. I don't think he's fought in 2 years, maybe. So
was it since he got knocked out at CES? Because he got knocked out brutally.
Oh no. Tommy's last fight, he beat Hugh McKenna. I think he grinded out a winner against him. I do believe.
Okay, yeah. Now I remember that one.
Yeah.
But that knockout that he suffered.
Well, yeah, that put a stick in the spokes for Tommy, and I think it was tough for him mentally to come back from that. And, he did, you know what I mean? But that's tough, man. Going to CES, you're the favorite. You're the hometown guy. That happens, man. But when happens, shit like that happens early in your career only makes you stronger, I think. And, the kid just had bad luck.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a tough one. But that, for some reason, I've seen a bunch of knockouts live. That one kind of sticks in my brain a little bit. I don't know if it was because of the amount of hype that was behind Tommy at the time, or just the brutality of the knockout itself. But that one definitely sticks in my brain. Every time I see Tommy's name, I think talent, and then that knockout. I look at the 2-1 record, and I look at that one, and I'm just like, oh, I was there for that.
Yeah, it was a definite crowd silencer.
Yeah.
So guys, man, I have the middleweight amateurs locked and loaded. If you want to get to them, you ready, guys?
Yeah, kick it off, Lars. And I'll pick it up when it pops up.
They're up now.
Yeah. Yeah, this was actually a really cool one to do. Spencer Payne retains the #1 spot. He was the #1 ranked guy back in the summer of 2020. He was 3-0 at the time. He's now 4-0. He fought in the combat zone card back in October. I was there to witness it, and it was a hellish head kick knockout over Carlton Charles. This kid, Spencer Payne, trains under David Ginsburg at Ginsburg MMA. He was a high-level black belt, but his striking is what has impressed me early in his career. His striking and his footwork is impressive. He hit Carlton Charles with a switch kick, head kick that was incredible, and put him almost. It was a flash knockout, but it was hellish. And we actually got some video of that and posted it on social media. But Spencer Payne's a scary dude, man. I think he's in his early 30s. He's got a chance to do something really special. So he deserves to be #1. #2 is a new guy on the scene, our own Colin Robinson. We actually manage Colin Robinson. He'll be fighting for the Cage Titans middleweight amateur belt on February 5th against #3, Gianetti Ojukwu. Is that right?
It sounds good to me, Lars. Sounds fucking perfect to me, man.
Ojukwu. It's a tough name, but Gianetti beat Jeff Reynolds, who's #6, at that same combat zone card that Spencer Payne fought on. And he's a scary dude, man. He's now training at Citadel, I believe. So Colin Robinson, who trains with Iber Hayes over at Team Link Muay Thai in Worcester. Colin's 3-0. No one really knows much about him. He's a Cape Cod kid. He played football in college. He got his 3 wins down in Tennessee. He's the Valor Fighting middleweight champion. So he's traveled to get his first 3 fights as an amateur during COVID. So he's been active, and now he's finally getting a shot to fight close to home. He's fighting in Plymouth, Mass, and he's a Cape Cod boy. So he's going to have a ton of people show up. Just a super good kid who's a stud athlete who's evolving. Like I said, he played college football, and he's been training at a Muay Thai gym, but he's also been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he wrestled in high school. That fight between #2 and #3 is going to be awesome on February 5th at Cage Titans 51 for their amateur middleweight belt. So those top 3, I think, are pretty much, set in stone. And then, going down the list, I don't know much about Kenyon Moore. I'll be honest with you, but he got votes, and he's 2-0, so that makes sense to put him there. But those top 3, they should, if they continue to progress, they'll have successful professional careers too. So, what are your thoughts, Travis?
Yeah, I agree that definitely the top 3 are the guys that are going to be pushing their way into the pro ranks probably within the next year and a half, maybe a little bit less for the #1 Spencer Payne. But yeah, the brutal head kick of Carlton Charles drops Charles in our rankings a little bit. He's a great athlete. He's always one of those guys that comes out and super athletic, super pumped, super prepared, former college football player. So he essentially with another win could bump back up there into the top 5. But other than that, you really can't argue many of these. But top 3 definitely should deserves the shine that they have on them. And I can't wait for that 2 against 3 with Robinson against Gianetti.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, not a lot of people know about Colin Robinson. So I think when you look at the Cage Titans card coming up on February 5th, that fight sticks out to me, just because they're both 2 big guys for 185. They're both very athletic, and that's kind of like the sleeper fight of the night, I believe. I'm really excited to see Colin. Obviously, we're biased, we manage Colin and we're helping him along his career. But I'm really excited to see those two guys throw down in the cage, and it's a small cage at Cage Titans too, so there's not a lot of room for these two big guys to move around.
Well, the last fight Colin was supposed to have is he was supposed to jump up to fight the light heavyweight champion at Valor. So this is kind of plays into that whole situation where he's going to fight a bigger guy. And Gianetti is a bigger guy. It's kind of going to be it should be a grappler essentially versus striker. It should be a very high level fight for an amateur belt. And I don't know. It's got the hair on the back of my neck standing up a little bit. I'm ready for this one.
Excellent. Well, guys, next on tap will be the Welterweight Pro Rankings. And this is one of my favorite divisions here. We know so many of these fighters. A lot of these fighters have been on the other side of the cage from each other. So this is a very, very stacked division here. And if you didn't make, these rankings, look at the people you're up against. I mean, you could be there next couple of fights. You know what I mean? It's like, but there's just some people we can't fit. I mean, you are teetering on it, but I mean, there's some divisions that are so stacked. It's self-explanatory why you may not have made the cut this time around. So, guys, here we go, man. We're going to talk about the Welterweight Pro New England MMA division. Here we go. Your number one guy right there, who I believe should have been a kind of, the man right there, is Billy Goff, who has, this kid has worked to get where he is. I mean, how old is the kid? Like 22, if that, right? 22, 23. The dude has never had an easy fight, has always gone against nothing but savages since the kid was 18 years old as an amateur, So, guys, let's talk about this and how excited you are to have a stacked division in New England to represent us in the future and now.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with it here because this is a crazy one for me too. I feel like position 2 through 6 or 7 could change in a heartbeat. But yeah, Billy Goff. I know people are gonna say he's lost to number 2, but that is at Bellator and on a big stage. He lost to decision.
No, that was at Reality.
Reality.
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
Same space. But yeah, it's just Billy Goff is the undoubted number 1. He is the Cage Titans welterweight champion. He's finished Marty Navis. He had a hell of a battle with Sean Lally, and he has earned every bit of the number 1 ranking here, regardless of his loss to Kem. And nothing against Kem. It's just we see this young kid that is holding his own with the best of the region on the biggest stages. This is our guy. So you go to number 3, Gary Belletto. I feel like he's got a lot to show. And I think I might have had Vinny ranked a little bit higher than him. That was a surprise to me a little bit. John Gotti's another one that could easily, with another nice performance, put himself up into the top 3. Yeah, man, this is a stacked weight class.
Can I just say one thing? I mean, as far as Gary Belletto, he's alternating between pro boxing and MMA. He had some time off, but Gary hasn't lost a fight since he lost that fight against the dude that held the CES title, the welterweight title, Wells.
Wells.
Where Gary came away with a broken jaw in that fight, a big punch that put him down. Had time off to nurse that broken jaw, but came back with a vengeance, boxing, knocking people out, and in the cage, knocking people out. He is under Tyson Chatier now, which means, as we know, managers can propel you past, if you're in the fifth ranked fighter, they can propel you past the first ranked fighter. I mean, I want to say, I don't want to say it's who you know, but when you're that talented and you have a manager behind you, man, you're going to get a push that others may not get. And I'm looking for, like, as far as Gary Belletto, just his performance in the ring and the cage and just the backing behind him. I like where he is in this rankings, but I think he's going to be that next guy with his next fight to get to the next level, I think.
Yeah, and I think, Belletto, I think he's had 2 fights since he's come back, and he's been impressive in both of them. So he's definitely moving up the rankings. I've heard some rumblings about maybe Goff versus Belletto here in the near future. So if they could make that fight, that'd be a badass fight, number 1 versus number 3. This is, I think, one of the deepest weight classes in our region. If you go down this list, when you got, John Gardy and Marty Navis at 6 and 7, and they're both 5-1, that's impressive, man. And, Nick Alley, he's a legitimate fighter. At number 10, that's crazy. Billy Goff deservedly, I think, should be number 1 after what he's done recently since, we've come back from COVID. So
2 wins in Bellator also.
Yeah.
2 wins in Bellator.
So that kid's a stud and he's young and he's got a really good shot to make it to the next level and make some moves. Vinicius De Jesus was the former number 1. I think he's on a 3-fight skid against some really tough competition.
Yeah.
So obviously that bumped him down. We still feel like he's a very talented fighter that's still got some years in him. It just maybe he wasn't taking the right matches at the right times. So he fell a little bit in the rankings. And then Pat Casey, who after going on a 3-fight skid, he lost to UG at 185. Then he lost twice in Bellator. One of those was a split decision, but he's come back now with 2 wins at Premier. So he's kind of got the momentum going again. This is a really fun division.
And Pat Casey, to mention him, he's in 2 divisions. He's ranked in 2 divisions, so that's impressive. We don't have many of those. We have a couple, but if you're ranked in 2 divisions, that means you're active, and that means you're valuable. You can fight in a lot of different spots and predicaments and late notice if needed.
Yep.
So, guys, what else? Do I want to say anything else about? Oh, all right. I want to touch on that Gary Belletto against Billy Goff, because speaking to Billy Goff on his last interview with me before, I think it was even before he won that title. He wants all titles. He spoke about the CES title and wanting that title. So you talking about the rumors about that matchup with Gary Belletto is very believable, because I know Billy has been really wanting that title. But Cage Titans might have a little say in that, wanting him to come defend that title. So there's a lot of options for Billy in the future. He could go back to Bellator. I mean, Billy's, like we said, he's 23 years old. He's under a great gym. He can call his own shots. He can fight regionally. He can go to Bellator, I would imagine. But, Spencer's going to give him the best opportunity to get him to the next level, because the kid has paid his dues. He doesn't need to, stay around if he has another opportunity elsewhere. So kudos to all these monsters on this fucking welterweight list.
Yeah, man. So it's
absolutely
a deep, fun division here in the region.
All right, guys. So let me get it up to. Let me find it while you guys are sitting there waiting for me to find it. So we're going now amateur welterweight now, right?
Yep.
All right. Let me.
Travis, take this one. I got to go grab my my charger. My computer's about to die.
All right. Read them off to me, Steve, because it hasn't popped up on my end yet. But let's
haven't got it up yet. Here, hold on. Where the frig is? I'm blind. Oh, there it is. Okay. Hold on. All right.
We need our producer.
I know, but I like being Jamie and Steve at once and trying to get Joe Rogan. So here we go, Travis. It is Jack Congdon, who is number 1 amateur welterweight in New England. Let's talk about it. Travis, he is Cage Titans welterweight amateur champion. It's a no-brainer. The kid is a fucking beast.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a stud. There's no question about it. He looks the part. He plays the part. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that he should be number one in the division, or in the region. Let's see others. Martin Thompson. This is a cool one. 4-0. He just fought at Premier recently. Put on a heck of a show. Got a lot of fan base behind him. So he falls into the number 3 spot there. Kyle Silent Hill from Nostos MMA, 2-0. He picked up 2 wins down in Florida. And he trains under Devin Powell over there at Nostos. So he's one of those guys that we haven't necessarily seen on the regional scene here in New England, but has picked up 2 wins during the COVID pandemic down in Florida. So he's a guy to watch. Duncan Smith shows up here, a champion in a couple promotions. He was an NEF champion. He was also the Combat Zone champion, just suffered a tough loss to a really tough kid with a lopsided record. The Dexter kid. I can't think of his name.
Manson. Oh, no. Austin Charlotte.
Austin Shala. Yeah, Austin Shala. Austin picked up his 3rd win. I think he's 3-10 now. But against Duncan Smith, that's a big one. But Duncan Smith still deserves to be up there because he's been in there with some real tough dudes. So yeah, a pretty top heavy division here with Jack Cognan and Zach Faulkner.
Now, one thing, can I add in? Zach Faulkner will be fighting Mike Murray at NEF 46, correct? And Mike Murray is not in this the welterweight division. Can you explain that? Because he is showing up somewhere else down the line in this podcast.
His last fight in the region was a lightweight title fight against Zach Richard, I believe. Or was it Mark Gardner, or was it Zach Richard?
His last fight in the region was against South Shore guy at Tim Burke.
Oh yeah, Birkenhead. But he's been at,
let me say one other thing. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but like brain, light bulbs are going off. But Mike Murray traveled to Florida the week after and redeemed himself that loss and won in another promotion in another state the following week.
Yep. Yes, he did.
Mike Murray's an interesting cat, man. He's I think he's out of the Marines now.
Yeah.
But he was in the Marines for a while, and I think he's fought all the way down to 45.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. So the fact that he's finding a home at 170 now, I'm a little nervous because looking at him in the cage, he doesn't look too big. Maybe he's put on a lot of muscle.
He's a tall that kid's a tall,
lanky,
big kid.
lanky.
Yeah, he has a lot of wingspan to fill in.
Yeah, no, I get that, but he was also controlled pretty easily by Zach Richard in that fight. And that was at 155.
Yeah.
So what does that tell me if he goes up to 170? If somebody wants to grapple him and wrestle him, how's he going to be able to handle that? I'm a little nervous. I know he obviously doesn't like the weight cut, but, if you want to be an effective pro at 170, you got to be walking around at 190, 195. So I don't know. I don't know if 170 is the right division for Mike Murray. It's interesting to see, but regardless, I think, Jack Conn and Zach Faulkner, 2 studs. I would love to see them fight each other. Maybe at Cage Titans or NEF or something like that. That'd be a fun fight.
Excellent, guys.
I do want to bring up one thing too that Steve almost brought up. Mike Bazanson doesn't make it on either of these lists because he has now made the decision to go pro. He was at the top. He's always been on top of this. He was on the top of our last rankings, I guess. So he kind of falls out of the spotlight here, but it's not because of any fault of his own. He's turning pro, and he would definitely take that top spot had he been around. But we couldn't put him there. He's gonna be a pro. He's been destined to be pro for years now. We've known it for a little while, so he'll probably be on those rankings in the near future.
Yeah, good point, Travis. Because Zanson's a stud. And he just is in a spot in his career where I think he was 7-0 as an amateur, but then he announced he was going pro. So once somebody announces they're going pro, we kind of remove them from the amateur rankings. But if if he was still in the didn't announce his desire to go pro or plan to go pro, he definitely would have been on top of this list.
Okay, people out there, if you see me like bending over, coming out of, I'm just trying to get the next thing up here. I'm Jamie from the podcast. I'm the guy in the corner there. If listen, I'll say this before we go to our next category. If there's anyone out there as far as like someone taking an intern, somebody that's into engineering, producing, anyone that knows how to press a fucking button on a keyboard, I would love to have you in the corner of my room here, maybe heckling me every so often, telling me, Steve, you're wrong. I would love to have somebody in the corner with me. It's a huge commitment, but I must say I'm fun as fuck. You'll get known for making me better as a podcaster, and man, I'll fucking promote and support you like no one ever has in your life as far as making a career in podcasting. So with that said, let's get to our next fucking category. It is
right,
the lightweight pro division. So guys, I'm flashing it up right now. Lars, I'm gonna let you start it off. Joe Gianetti is back at number 1, man. Let's talk about it, guys.
We're getting into the meat now. These some of the deeper divisions in the region. This one is really interesting for me. Again, an extremely deep division, pro lightweight in the region. Joe Gianetti retains number 1, but it was by the slimmest of margins. Ali Zebian was neck and neck with him. And the great part about this is that these two, after Zebian beat number 3 Peter Barrett at Cage Titans, he called out Gianetti, and they were eyeing to line up that fight for a belt. And then Zebian went and fought in the premier lightweight tournament and won that. So this, Ali Zebian has impressed me, man. The kid's a stud. He's just a grinder. He's got solid striking. He's really good grappling. He's a solid athlete. He's not the biggest lightweight, but he competes, man. You cannot run through Ali Zebian. Obviously, we know a lot about Joe Gianetti. He'll be fighting for the Cage Titans lightweight belt against.
No, well, he'll be defending the belt.
Excuse me, you're right. Yeah, he'll be defending the Cage Titans lightweight belt against number 7 Jacob Bone on February 5th in the main event. So that would be a great scrap. I had Zebian number 1 on my list, and I had Gianetti number 2. The numbers were really close. It really could have gone either way, but Gianetti just squeaked out. So those number 1 and number 2 right there, I think are deserve it. I'd love to see those two go at it. Then obviously you got Peter Barrett at number 3, who lost to Zebian. Josh Harvey, who we haven't heard. He fought at NEF recently, but he hasn't been super active. Guy's got a ton of talent. It's just I think he needs to fight some tougher competition to get some more recognition. Like a guy who's 8-1 should probably be knocking on the UFC's door. The reason I don't think he's there is because he hasn't fought the toughest competition throughout his career. He needs to step up his level of competition in order to get recognized by the bigger promotions to get that opportunity to get to the next level. So hopefully we'll see that in the next few fights from Josh Harvey. And then Zach DiSabatino at number 5, man. The guy's a grinder. Just came off a big win at Cage Titans recently. He's 8-2. Like, I'd love to see Harvey and DiSabatino go at it, to be honest. And then one guy, actually there's 2 guys on here who I thought could be ranked higher. Like, just in terms of potential, I think they could be up in the top 3, and that's Eddie George and Caleb Hall, both undefeated at 4-0. Eddie George, I've seen pretty much every one of his fights in his career, amateur and pro. As an AMI, he lost a few, but he's evolved incredibly over the last few years. in predominantly fighting under the CES banner, and he's been super impressive in his last few fights, man. Like the kid's a killer. I'm really impressed by Eddie George. And Caleb Paul, kid's a beast. Kid is a grappling beast. I think he's 4-0 at NEF. And, you know, when you choke out a BJJ black belt and John Ortolani, that tells you something about his grappling. He's a 2-time state champion wrestler in Maine. He now trains at Syndicate MMA out in Las Vegas. Caleb Paul is a scary, scary dude who could easily be anybody on this list.
And will be he'll be fighting just like Joe Gianetti in a month.
Yeah, he'll be fighting NEF. I don't know if we know his opponent yet. I hope it's a little bit tougher competition than his last fight, but you know, Caleb hasn't taken the easiest path to his 4-0. He beat CJ Uhr, who is a legitimate fighter in Maine. He also choked out John Ortolani, who's a BJJ black belt, who's got 30 fights under his belt. So Caleb Hall's no joke, man. If there's two guys on this list that you told me I had to invest money in to get to the UFC and make a legitimate career, there's a few guys. But I'd say Ali Zebian, Eddie George, and Caleb Hall. And, you know, Josh Harvey just needs to show me a little bit more in terms of his level of competition.
I'd like to throw in that Jacob Bond, who comes in at number 7, will be fighting Joe Gianetti at Cage Titans for that lightweight belt, man. As far as this fight, we do know that, Jacob Bond is a grinding jiu-jitsu guy that loves to hit the mat, but he'll grind with you on the feet also. He is the reality fighting lightweight champion. Fought for Premier in their tournament. Didn't come away with, he lost a decision. But he's out there grinding, and he's back to get that title against Joe, man. And it's a fight that was supposed to happen at their last card, but Joe had some issues, and we pushed it to 2022, man. That's a great fight right there.
Yeah, and just to let everyone know, we also managed Jacob Bone. We were able to get him this fight on this stage, and he's coming off a loss at Bellator against a tough kid. But Jacob is incredibly talented. He's got a ton of experience, and now he's got a full fight camp to prepare for this. So his cardio is going to be on point, and you can't put Jacob Bone away easily. And he's going to take the fight to Joe Gianetti, and it's going to be fun to watch those two go at it in the main event.
Excellent, guys. I'm going to flash. Well, I'm going back and forth, but is there anything else?
Go ahead. Yeah, Travis, what are your comments on this division? I'm curious. And one thing I want to know is, Bruce Boynton fell to number 10. I think he was 2 last rankings. But he just hasn't been active. He's 43 or whatnot. So, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on this are very similar to yours. If I had to pick 3 guys to invest my money in, they'd be probably the same 3 you had mentioned. Caleb Hall, he was trending in that right direction. Sean Ray wasn't really the guy I was looking for him to fight, but let's hope they put a little bit of a challenge in front of him here at NEF. Eddie George really falls into the category of really hasn't beat anyone yet, but the people he's beaten brutally with his fists. So, for the most part, he I believe does own submission victories too, but started standing where he's beat the shit out of somebody and then strangled them on the mat. So, yeah, he's one guy I would definitely invest some money into. And Harvey, like you said, was trending in the right direction. This guy that he just fought, supposedly a real experienced combat sports guy, didn't know a lot about him, Brazilian dude. But he had fought Jesse Erickson in the past. He got the win against Jesse Erickson. That's a big feather in his cap. But
he lost to Erickson. That's his
loss to Jesse Erickson. Sorry. Wow.
Jesus Christ.
What are you dipping? What are you dipping into your stash over there?
Thank you for correcting me. Jesse's never gonna let me live that down. But but there is some experience level there fighting Jesse Erickson. So it hasn't all been cans. But yeah, come out, show something. I mean, he fought Gianetti, and that was like the biggest fight around for the longest time. And the draw really left you wondering about Harvey. And I think we're still at the point where we're wondering about him a little
Okay.
bit.
And I was a judge for that fight, and Harvey definitely won that fight. So
Yeah.
I will die on that hill.
All right, guys, before we move to the lightweight amateur rankings, I want to just say one last thing about that lightweight rankings. Peter Barrett has impressed me. I mean, he had that fight against Ali. It was a split decision. Peter 100% thinks he won that fight. That was a big fight right there. That was a teetering fight for Pete coming back from the UFC. Pete has fought nothing but elite fighters. Ali Zebian being one, Pete being in the UFC, having 3 fights there. I do believe, was it 3 fights? One on the Contender and 2 legit fights for the UFC. But anyway, he fought elite fighters. He came back. He lost that decision against Ali. He came back after that fight and he destroyed a man from Hawaii there. Yes.
Yeah. Spencer Higa.
Yeah, Higa. I'm loving Peter Barrett right now as far as just his grit and he's just very confident in himself that he performed in the last 3 losses. The fights, he was in every one of those fights, man. And I think Peter at number 3 is exactly where he should be. And Peter can fight anyone on this list, and it would be a high-profile fight.
Yeah, I think, Peter's obviously fought some serious competition. The fight with Ali was a hell of a fight, back and forth. Could have gone either way. I personally scored it for Ali. I know Peter disagrees with that. But Peter's not done with his career by any means. He's got a shot. I'm not sure if this had ever happened, but we want to see Ali versus Gianetti, but could Barrett versus Gianetti ever happen?
That fight was Barrett had Barrett had a lot of verbal wars with Joe. And Joe, something happened with that matchup. Peter ended up fighting Zach DeBasab and put a real big hurting on Zach. So there is probably something brewing in the back that, depending on what happens in this next fight with Joe, and I would think Pete might need another fight under his belt, to maybe make that matchup happen if Gianetti comes away with a win, in the summertime or something like that. I mean, depending, if Jacob comes out with a win, we could have Jacob against fucking Peter Barrett fight sometime in the summer, man. This division has a lot of potential for a lot of matchups depending on what happens on February 5th.
Yeah, and what kind of throws a wrench into all this is, Zebian fought for Cage Titans. They wanted him back. He went to Premier in the lightweight tournament because there was a good amount of money on the line there, so you can't blame him for that. And he likes to fight for Premier, and he holds their belt now, so they kind of have him under wraps. But I'm not sure what's going on with Premier. I've heard rumblings that they may be done, so I'm not sure what's going on. We haven't seen a post from them on social media since before Thanksgiving. Their last show, there weren't many fans there. If this is it for Premier, tip of the cap, you guys had a great career, but, where does that put Ali Zebian? It's interesting. I'm sure Pulver would love to have Ali back in the Cage Titans cage, and maybe this is the opportunity if Premier is taking some time away.
Excellent, man. A lot of potential happening for matchups in that division heading into, the first third of 2022 year. So with that said, guys, let's move to the lightweight amateur rankings here. Lars, one thing you mentioned about, guys turning pro, you mentioned Bazanson had said that, he was turning pro, so we didn't put him on the list. There's another guy that is on the list, and he was teeter-tottering, turning pro from the lightweight amateur division. And I think he actually is turning pro now, but even though, let's talk about this. So the lightweight amateurs and who should be number one in New England as an amateur is, who is it, Lars? I'll let you
Mo Elkanani.
Yes, there we go.
Mo Elkanani, 9-1. Yeah, so this is an interesting one because I just mentioned that Bazanson wasn't included on the amateurs. He declared he went pro. Muhammad Elkanani recently declared he's going pro. But when he did that, we had already had our votes out. We were starting to get votes back in, and then that came to light, and it was just too late to pull him off. It would have kind of just messed everything up. But Mo has said that he is going pro. So technically you could pull him off the list and bump everybody up one if you wanted to. But for argument's sake, we're going to leave him on and have some fun with it. But yeah, Mo Elkanani by far and away is the best lightweight in New England. The kid striking, his hands, his boxing, is some of the best boxing I've ever seen at the amateur ranks. What he did to number 4, Nuri Abrar, at Cage Titans was an impressive thing. He ran through him with his hands in quick fashion. Mo Elkanani has a shot to go to the next level and make a serious impact. And I hope he does. But, to be honest, if Kanani really wants to do that and he wants to get to the UFC and be a high-level fighter, he's going to have to move out of Maine, and he's going to have to go to a gym with some training partners that can really challenge him. So I don't think he's there yet. Maybe we're talking in a year or two. But right now, he's a scary dude, and he's fun to watch fight, and he's a good dude. So Mo Elkanani, number 1 by far and away.
Excellent. Yep. Travis?
I mean, you could put Mo Elkanani number 1 pound for pound amateur fighter probably in New England. This guy's insane. Like Lars said, the beating he put on Nuri Abrar was scary.
He might be one of the best amateur lightweights in the country.
Yep. Yeah, I would go as far as
I don't know much about amateur lightweights, but seeing his skills in person for many years, he could be one of the best lightweight amies in the country.
Yep, I would definitely agree with that. I just remember him putting Nuri in that corner and hitting him with probably a combination that was probably 5 or 6 strikes deep before Nuri folded, and man, that was insanity. I remember that I was looking my angle. I was right at Nuri's face, and I could just see that he separated him from consciousness, and it was pretty crazy. But I want to mention a couple of guys on this list. Devin Corson at 10. That kid could do some damage in the lightweight division. He's a strong dude. He hasn't fought for a while. I know he was dealing with the loss of his dad, and that hit him pretty hard, but he's been in the gym again, and I'd really like to see him back in action because he's one of those guys that's really brought it. He's fought some guys. He fought Zach Richard, or he was going to fight Zach Richard, I should say. He's just another one of those guys I see at 3-1 that could move up here. Mike Murray, there's your guy at number 5, Mike Murray. Again, could be put on the welterweight division, but it is a strong statement at 5 here. But this is a pretty good list. Dylan Felion, 7-2. He's a guy out of Vermont. Hasn't really fought many people that we've known, but 7-2 record, and he's been pretty active. So he deserves to be in the top 10 here.
Let's the mule.
The mule, Nate White. That's
Nate
what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Making America great again, Nate White.
I love him.
Let's go, Brandon. He's definitely number 1 if you take Kanani off there with that 5-0 record.
But isn't he's in the comments right now? But
Who?
Nate White.
Oh, that's my boy. I love that kid.
Yeah. Isn't he? He's in the military.
Yes.
I think he's stationed somewhere else now. So I'm not sure how active he is in training, and we might not see him locally here for a little while. But obviously, a 5-0 record, that has validity at number 2. It is.
Yep.
So I'd love to see the mule back soon. So Nate, if you're in the comments, let us know when you're coming back. What should we expect from you? A couple guys on here that kind of caught my eye that I think you should keep an eye on. Both Nostos guys. RJ Gianetti at number 3 has looked super impressive in his 2 fights, and then also Ben Grady at 2-0. Those guys obviously training under Devin Powell at Nostos in Somersworth, New Hampshire. I think you got to keep an eye on both those guys. But RJ Gianetti, when you watch him fight as a 2-0 AMI, he's a guy to kind of keep an eye on. He's got some potential. So keep an eye out for him.
Excellent. And Nureddin, as we spoke, he had a tough task with Kanani. So Nureddin,
but he's still the ammo lightweight champion. So you can,
and I think he might be reality. He might be something for reality too. So he's also fighting Muay Thai. He just fought that lion fight that I watched him fight, and he fought a beast coming out of Hard Knocks in Boston there in Flavio. So the kid's not afraid to get in there. I think he's got another fight either for No Boundary again, or he's got another fight in an MMA promotion coming down the line, because I saw his name flashed somewhere as far as a matchup. I can't recollect it, but I know talking to him in his last interview and at Lion Fight, at his last fight, the kid is staying hungry. He wants the best fights, the hardest fights, because as he said, when he gets to the pro level, he wants no surprises.
Yeah, and I think I haven't seen Nuri fight much. I saw him obviously against Kanani, which is a tough task, but he did miss weight pretty badly against Kanani. And I believe he also might have missed weight for his Muay Thai fight. So that's, kind of a question mark or an issue maybe you need to keep an eye out. Does he have to bump up to 170? I don't know. And Nate White just mentioned in the comments, training at Victory MMA in San Diego. Killers here. I will fight sometime in 2022 for NEF. There we go. The mule is coming back. Hee-haw.
That's my boy. I like that kid. He's a good kid, man. He's a really good kid.
Hee-haw.
I mean, they're all good kids. I mean, everyone's a kid to me. I'm like fucking 700 years old. So, I mean, you guys are like guys and ladies and dudes out there. You're like my children at this point. So,
Steve, can I ask you, are you getting AARP stuff in the mail yet?
Go fuck yourself, Lars. Yeah, and I refuse it. I put refuse on the fucking thing, and it comes right back to me at the post office. All right, guys, man, we're moving to pro.
Let's go.
Featherweight.
Starting to get interesting.
Of New England MMA. I think we're down to this 6 left. This is our 6th right here. So, man, let's run through these, even though we want to spend time on them. But man, let's keep people eating popcorn through this. So here we go. The Featherweight New England MMA rankings. Here we go. Shameless Don Shanis. Number 1 professional featherweight in New England, man. I love myself some Shameless Nation, guys. Let's talk about it. Travis, you're up.
Oh man, I'm still waiting. You got that poster for me?
It's coming up right now.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
I'm gonna go take a pee as this is going.
I got it. Yeah, Don Shanis, number 1. I think a little bit surprising to a lot of people is going to be Nate Garib, but they're the people that did not watch him fight Tom Pagliarulo in his last fight against at CES, which was a great fight, back and forth. Nate with the broken toe, biting down on that mouthpiece, taking anything that Tom could feed him and feeding it back ×2. So I think that's the big surprise here. I don't think anyone's surprised Shanis is on top. And like Lars had mentioned it earlier in the show, we got Bocchniak on there. No longer fighting for the UFC, but he's fighting regionally. So he hasn't been active inside the region, but we got him up there because he belongs there. Then we got 4-0 Conor Matthews. Conor Matthews just has trouble getting people showing up. He could easily be 5, 6, 7-0 at this point if people would just show up to fight his ass. But for some reason, when the rubber meets the road, they forget his address or they forget where to find Memorial Hall. Then we go down to Pagliarulo. Honestly, without that loss against Garib, he could be anywhere on this list too. Very talented. So I'm happy to see him up there. Then we got Bruce again. Lars mentioned inactivity is keeping him from pushing back up towards the top of the ranks. Dylan Lockhart, another guy whose inactivity has pushed him down a little bit there. It goes actually for the last 4 really on this list is just due to inactivity. Allowed some of these prospects to move their way up the list. So like I mentioned, Pagliarulo and Garib. But they're 7, 8, 9, and 10 on this list are as grizzled veterans as you can get, pretty much. But it's cool to see some of these guys pop up on over them. This is gonna create some buzz. I think this particular weight division could create some buzz because there's going to be some of these veterans that aren't happy that some of these younger kids have bumped up above them. But
yeah,
that's what
can I jump in there? One name that I am very excited to see on there is Conor Matthews, 4-0, and we talked about that, Lars. As far as like the record, we don't just go by how many fights you have. There's a lot that goes into that. The potential. Conor hasn't fought the greatest talent out there, but it hasn't been lack of trying. He's had a couple of real hard fights scheduled in the last three months or so that have fallen out for the guy. He's looking to get more fights under his belt to get out there. He's one of the most, I have to say, probably the most popular fighter on the list. And the sky's the limit for this kid. I'm so happy he's at number 4. As you mentioned before, Travis, he's a couple with go ahead,
Aaron Johnson,
and like you said, sharpening each other's swords.
Good-looking couple.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I want to be the godparent of their baby. Let me tell you, because I'll be in pictures that are going to be on fucking GQ and People magazine someday. So, guys, let's talk about a little about Conor Matthews, and we'll go through. We'll keep going with the list here and move on.
Yeah. I think Don, Shameless Nation's in the chat, by the way. I think Shanus was number 3 on our last list. And I think, if I remember correctly, we had Matt Bissett number 1 and maybe Bruce Boynton number 2. And Shanus was number 3. So obviously with Bissett retiring, he's gone. Boynton being inactive and being 43, he drops. And Shanus, he's 1-1 since those rankings. He fought Nate Williams at Cage Titans at a higher weight class than he should have been fighting. He had a very impressive victory in his last fight at Cage Titans. And now he's actually going to be fighting for the Cage Titans featherweight belt against one of the guys we represent for Full Contact Management, Shane Manley out of Syracuse, New York. Shane Manley's 5-5, but he is a tough son of a bitch, and that will be a very fun fight to watch. That's a fight that I cannot wait to see. Don Shanus versus Shane Manley, and the reason Shane's not on this list is because he hasn't fought in the region in a while. So that'll be a hell of a fight. And then Nate Garib at number 2. That was one you could easily flip flop number 6 and number 2. You could easily flip flop Tom Pagliarulo and Nate Garib, depending on how that fight went and who was declared the winner, right? But Nate Garib has really impressed me recently. And that fight against Pagliarulo, which we were at, Garib had a nasty toe injury, and it turns out actually Pagliarulo broke his toe as well. It was the fight that just broke a bunch of toes. But Nate Garib has really impressed me. He's a grinder, man. Like, he definitely handled Pagliarulo. It was a close fight, but I thought Pags was gonna have his way with him. But I get, he showed up. I actually had Kyle Bocchniak a little bit higher than this too, and we can't underestimate Bocchniak. He's a former UFC guy who probably shouldn't have been cut from the UFC when he was cut, but now He hasn't fought in the region for a while. He's been fighting down south, I think, for XFC. Rattled off a few wins, ton of experience. I'd love to see him fight back in New England at some point in time. But those top three are legit. And even Conor Matthews. Conor Matthews debuted on our rankings when he was 1-0 at number 10. So he's rattled off 3 wins since then. It hasn't been against the best competition, but we're looking beyond that. We're seeing the potential of Conor Matthews in what he can actually do in his physical traits inside the cage. He has a difficult time getting fights and locking up fights. It's tough. He's a killer. People see his physique and former military guy, and I think they get a little scared. I think rumor has it he's fighting at CES March 4th. So hopefully they bring in some legit competition for him to show what he really has. But I love this top 5 right here. This top 6.
Can I add something about Nate? Nate, I think, is 3-0 in his last 3 fights for CES. He might even be 4-0 for them. I've seen Nate fight as an amateur when he was fighting at Reality Fight against Matt Benya. He's been a grinder ever since I've seen this kid. The evolution of his game is it's taking off now. He's getting confidence in himself, and you see it in in his last fight. Of course, he got the confidence fighting Pags, but the fight before that, when he just put an onslaught on his opponent in there, and CES just made a big highlight reel of the kid, launches his not only his his psyche and what's going on in his mind, but it puts his stock up there. It looks like CES is has a liking for this kid.
Didn't Grieve stop the kid via leg kicks? What wasn't that how he?
I think so.
It was impressive, man. Like the kids, I've talked to him a few times, but his recent fights, like he had a solid amateur career, but his last few fights, he's progressed so much in those few fights that he's caught my eye. Like there's something about the kid. He doesn't have the best physique. He's got a sweet dad bod like I do, but he's got will, he's got heart, he's got technique, and you are not going to run through this kid. I mean, he definitely has a shot to make it to the next level.
Speaking
of
that,
he's heavy-handed.
Yeah, and he's not afraid. I mean, he uses his leg kicks to meter his hands, man, and he does it well. And he always has that grinding grappling game too, if he needs it. I mean, he'd rather get up on his feet, but that kid can grapple and get out of trouble if he needs to off the ground.
He's a smart kid. He's got a super high fight IQ, which only 5 fights into your career, or 6 fights into your career, is impressive. He's definitely he's smart when he gets in there. He knows what he's doing, and honestly, I think his fight IQ is what won him that fight against Tom Pags.
One last thing about him, as far as me, I did when I interviewed him after that fight. I must say, my interview, and I meter a lot of fights out of how many people support them, and the buzz around him. I interviewed Nate right after that fight, the week after, and his interview with me got like 3 to 4 times more views than like the majority of the people I'm interviewing. That means people are paying attention to him, and there's supporters out there sharing the stuff because they want to get this kid heard. And speaking with him in that interview, he said he would be back. He had to get a little Band-Aid put on that toe. It wasn't as bad as it actually looked, but it was bad enough to put him on the sidelines for a little while. So he said he's getting a little rest. He'll be back. You might see him, who knows, March or sometime early summer. But he said he will be back, taking some time off because the kid's been grinding 3 or 4 fights.
Yeah, I think the only guys on this list we know we have fights locked up are Don Shanis, Conor Matthews, and I think that's it.
Conor Matthews? He's not locked up, is he? Does he have a fight coming? All right.
Like March 4th, CES.
Oh, okay.
No. He's made a comment.
All right.
He's made a comment on social media saying he's fighting March 4th. I know CES's next event is March 4th, so I'm putting 2 and 2 together there.
Excellent, guys. Well, let's anything else you want to say before we move on to the amateur featherweights?
No,
Let's
I
go,
think
guys.
it's gonna be fun. This is a fun division, man, and yeah, I love it. I love seeing the younger guys kind of move up the ranks.
And kudos to Don Chanis for getting another title shot. Like we said, he was supposed to have one against Williams, but Williams, last minute matchup there because fights fall through, and he came in a lot heavier than Don. That fight went down to a 3-rounder, right? So 5 rounds could have been a whole different story at the weight they were Don was contracted to for that fight. So
and I'll say one thing, like, and I know Don's watching, and I love Don. Like, we've talked many times, and I when you watch that fight against Williams, like, if I was in Don's shoes, I wouldn't have taken that fight. Yeah, you sold a bunch of tickets, you got a bunch of merch sold, you're in your hometown. But it was a last minute replacement. I can't remember who he was fighting. Who was his opponent prior to Williams?
I forgot. Oh, was it Estelle?
Yes.
Holy
Yeah.
shit!
Darius Estelle.
Fucking brain right here, baby.
It was Estelle, and he backed out for, I think he got injured. He broke his foot or something, maybe like a week prior. And they brought in Williams last minute. And when you looked at Williams and Shayna's face off, Williams probably had 7 or 8 inches on him. It was a big size discrepancy. And with Don knocking on the UFC's door, that is not the time to take that fight. It's time to say, you know what? Let's wait till the next one. I need to fight at 45. I'm not fighting this guy at 55. Because honestly, he took that fight. He lost. It was a close fight, but the size discrepancy definitely had an impact on the result of that fight. And him losing that fight makes him take 2 steps backwards from going to the UFC. So maybe it's Don's management. I don't know, but I love the guy. I just don't think that was the right fight to take at that time.
Shit happens, man. So a lot of fighters took fights that they wouldn't have taken in other circumstances. But as we know, COVID, all this other shit, kind of, you have to take that opportunity. As far as me with Don, I think I'm for him taking that fight. Don's a big ticket seller. That's all he does. He doesn't make a living doing anything else. He had a fight. He had tickets sold, merchandise sold. It's a big risk, but taking that risk, I think, also shows his character, that he's not afraid to take it. And look where we are right now. He gets another title shot, which I think he's right back where he left off right before that fight.
Yeah, and I respect Don for taking that fight on short notice against an unknown from down south who's much bigger than him. Mucho respect. I just, when you take a step back and look at your career as a whole, I don't necessarily think that's the right move for your career at the time. The tickets and the merch, I know it's a lot of money and it's a pain in the ass to go back and get refunds and play that game. It's a complete headache. But ultimately, Don's not doing this to sell tickets at Cage Titans and to sell merch locally. Don is doing this to fight in the UFC. And if that's your end goal, who cares about the tickets and the refunds and all the other shit? Because that's not a good matchup on short notice up a weight class. Because maybe he made 5, 6, 10 grand, I don't know. But if you get a contract with the UFC and you rat off a few wins, that's 6 figures a year. That's a totally different category. And now that may have delayed that whole UFC opportunity by 6 to 12 to 18 months. So I see what you're saying, Steve, and I respect Don for taking the fight, but no one can deny the fact that he's 2 steps back from the UFC after losing that fight, just because he took it out of his weight class against the guy who was much bigger, who he didn't know about. So that's just my opinion. But hey,
I respect it, and I totally see that side of it also. With that, we have to move on. Anything you want to say before we move on to the featherweight amateurs?
No, let's get to those amateurs.
All right, let's go. Here we go. Featherweight amateur rankings for New England. As to be expected, another dude that is making that walk across the bridge to pro, but there was nothing set in stone, is the Cage Titans amateur featherweight champion and defending amateur champion in Shane Doherty. Let's talk about this division, boys, because there are some very, very big prospects in this division.
Yeah, definitely. When you got Dan Walsh and Jake Kasky down at the bottom of a top 10, fucking A, just on their fight alone against each other, man.
Titans,
it's a fun one.
Cage Titans amateur fight of the year, I must say.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
that was the first fight back from COVID.
Yes, that was the first MMA fight. It was the first MMA fight of the night.
There was one Muay Thai fight beforehand, right?
It was like, what the hell is going on? It was awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, Shane Doherty belongs on top. Cage Titans featherweight amateur champion, reigning, defending. Then you got Nate Grimard. Nate took a step up in competition in his last fight when he fought Billy the Kid Wilson for the featherweight title at NEF. Great fight. Billy was just one step ahead of Nate the whole night, but Nate deserves to be in the top 2 or 3 here. There's no question in my mind. And then you got Marcel Romero. Marcel just beat Dan Walsh. Marcel improves to 3-0. And he was one of those guys we didn't know a whole lot about. He had fought a little while ago. And we were really gauge a lot from his fight against Walsh. So he definitely belongs up there. And then you got Andrew Valdina, who's going to be fighting at Cage Titans. I believe he's going down to Bantamweight, am I right, to fight Arthur Mpufu for the title?
Who? Valdina is Valdina is a real bantamweight. He went up to featherweight to fight Randy. So now now he's going back to bantamweight to go for that amateur title against Mpufu.
Right. So he shows up here at featherweight because he's fought at featherweight. And I mean that's basically my gist of it. When you got Dan Walsh and Jake Kasky at the bottom of a list like this, and we're talking the amateur fighters, yeah, that's a good list. Like I said, I like Grimard at 2. I don't think that loss against Billy Wilson does a lot to his prospective career moving forward. I think if anything, it's a feather in his cap for going 5 rounds with a guy from outside the region. So yeah, no, this list is looking pretty accurate.
As we know, Brandon Mail-Up Fevens, he fought Nate Grimard a couple of NEF cards back. A fight that Nate, I do believe he ended that fight, right? He had a finish in that fight.
Yeah.
But I have to say, you know, these guys from 5 on, Yurik Anderson, he's got a fight coming up very soon. That kid is a beast. He beat Zach Richards at Premier for their belt, I do believe.
Yep.
Finished Zach Richards there, which is fucking hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Shane Doherty at number 1. We know he's going pro, but he's 5-0. Not only was he ranked the number 1 featherweight, he was also ranked the number 1 most handsome guy in New England MMA.
Yeah.
I would have Shane Doherty's babies. But stud, he's going to have a hell of a career. Cage Titan stalwart. And then, the Andrew Valdina has looked super impressive recently. He's got some serious hands and great footwork. But one guy who really sticks out to me who's scary is Marcel Romero. What he did to Dan Walsh in that fight. I don't know much about the guy. He seems to be pretty humble and quiet, and you don't see too much of him on social media. But the few times I've seen him fight, he's a scary, scary dude at 145. So keep an eye out for that guy.
Yeah, he had a long layoff in between, his second fight leading up to his third. I want to say 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
And he said he never stopped training. He was just, getting personal stuff together, and the kid didn't miss a beat. I mean, even though it was only Dan's second fight, it was only Marcel's third fight. And coming back after 4 years off of not even like seeing a cage. So, like you said, that's very, very impressive. And that kid, I like to see him stay busy. I think he was supposed to be on a Phantom Premier card, just amateur card, after the last. I think that was just Karen throwing fucking anything out there to stay, relevant at that point. But that kid should be shopped around, man. He should not stay stagnant. He should get out there as soon as possible and get some action, either for a reality, even though it's too late now. But there's a ton of cards coming up. This kid shows that he can get it done, man. We need to see much more of him.
Yeah, I think he's had trouble maintaining matchups too. I think people see this is from what I've heard, that the people saw the 2-0 record, looked up some tape on him and said next, So yeah, he's definitely a guy that we need to keep our eye on.
And talking to Dan Walsh, who fought him, Dan knew what he was getting into. And as we know, man, you got the Lozans guys, man, they don't fuck around. They're getting in there to try to get to the best talent. Dan had fight of the year, amateur fight, man. There's no use in putting him against somebody that he's just going to take out easily. Joe put him in there, put him matched up against somebody that's going to challenge him. It's going to make him, and it made him a better fighter, man.
Absolutely.
Where are we going next? We're going, oh my God, here come the
Bantamweight Pro.
Here come the fireworks, people. Bantamweight Pro. Best bantamweights in New England. Let me find it, guys. Let me find it. And
everyone knows who owns this division.
I don't know.
Everyone knows who owns this division. Everyone should know who owns this division because he's number one on our list. And it's Jay the Joker Perrin. It's Jay the goddamn Joker Perrin.
Double
we're
champ.
about to tell you.
Remember the name.
Double champ.
Yep.
Jay Perrin, number one. Last year, what was he, 3 or 4? Where was he last year?
Perrin was, I think he was number one last time too.
Oh yeah, he was champ, so he's number one.
Yeah.
You sure he was number one? Yeah. All right, number one. I don't know. I'm sorry, Jay, if I, forgot where you were last year, but it was last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Jay Perrin, number one, deservedly so. Kids, 10-4, CES champ, Cage Titans champ, knocking on the door of the UFC. Another winner.
Should be 11-3. Should be 11-3. I believe he beat that kid on the Contender Series. Dana White believes he beat the kid on the Contender Series. Right. So yeah, there's no question about this. Yeah.
And Johnny Campbell, 21-14. Obviously, he's got a ton of fights under his belt. He was on. He'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. He'll go to Brazil. He'll go to Texas. He'll go to your mom's backyard. He doesn't care. He'll fight anybody.
He's actually fighting on the 8th of January against Johnny Lopez. Who,
right. Yeah. Which will
we'll
be
see
a
in a minute.
Great scrap.
That's going to be I think 130-pound catch weight.
Makes sense because we're gonna see Johnny Lopez on this next list.
So can Campbell get down to 130? He looks like shit getting to 135.
Well, really? Sorry, Johnny.
He looks sucked out. Great.
what the reasoning behind this is that they fought. What they fight at? Did they fight at one? I think they fought at 125 when Johnny went to or 135. Maybe they fought at 135 at the reality fight when Johnny went in there at late notice. So now they're fighting kind of in the middle. 5 pounds from Lopez's weight division and 5 pounds lower than Johnny's. Like you said, Lars, I don't know if he's going to make 130 pounds. The fight's going to go on no matter what because Johnny Lopez ain't going to – he don't give a fuck if Johnny comes in there 155. The fight's happening. It's in Lopez's backyard. But, interesting you say that. I wasn't really thinking of the weight. But, yeah, this is the first time Johnny's cut to anything other than bantamweight in a while.
Yeah. I know it's not the easiest cut for him either. So, we'll see how that goes. But Perrin and Campbell have had a long-term feud after their close contest at Cage Titans. So it's great to see them 1-2. And then the party comes in at number 3. Joe Penafiel, a new guy on the scene, making waves. Everyone hates him. Who's a fighter. I love him as a fan. Kid's been impressive. Went 3-0 this year on the Cage Titans banner and beat some really good guys. So
really good guys.
Penafiel's been talking shit to Campbell, to Perrin. He talks shit to anybody. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Penafiel-Campbell fight in the future. Perrin we won't see back at Cage Titans, I don't think.
I'm gonna say
no. We got
now.
Bugs.
I'm gonna say this right now.
Right.
Speaking to Joe, and money talks as always, but we know at these regional levels there's not much money in there. Joe is friends with Johnny Campbell. They talk a lot. When I spoke to Joe, and the buzz right now, or not the buzz, I think it's written in stone. Joe will be fighting Bugs for the I hate to say this belt, but what's the name
Interim.
of the interim belt. And I think that's just to make the fight more exciting. Not to say these two guys don't deserve to fight over a belt, but we do know who owns that belt, and that's Jay Perrin. So
no, and I also say this, I think Pulver making that Cage Titans making that fight an interim championship. I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. Is probably Pulver kind of sticking it to Perrin, because Perrin got really vocal about Cage Titans recently, which I don't think was
on this show.
I don't think it was valid on Perrin's point of view. It's tough because when you go to CES and you win their belt, you're kind of locked in with them. And I think Perrin was looking for some sort of opportunity from Cage Titans, but Mike's like, Pulver's like, you're with CES now. I can't do anything about it. But Perrin went about it where he was pretty aggressive vocally about Cage Titans and how they, treated him. So I'm assuming that, Pulver's like, all right, well, you're gone, so let's make a championship. And I think that was probably Pulver's way of kind of sticking it a little bit to Perrin, which, I respect. It's all's fair in love and war, right? But he'll be taking on, so now the interim championship is Penafiel versus Bugs Young, Lionel Young at number 7. And you might look at his record and say he's 10-17. What the hell is he doing on this list? But his recent performances have been awesome. If you ranked fighters right now and took all their records away, Bugs Young is definitely on this list, and he might even be in the top 5. I don't know. He's looked really, really good against some tough competition recently. So I'm glad to see him on this list.
A couple other guys on this list that no doubt should be on this list is John Duma, ranked number 4. That's a great spot for him. And the knockout artist at number 5.
I always love talking about this guy. And he knocked out Carlos Espinoza, I believe it was, at CES again, just to further reiterate the fact that this guy is going to be dangerous. I really think 3 through 7 here can be mixed up any way you decide to slice it. These guys are great. This is one of the divisions I'm super excited about going forward. The Bugs Young fight with the party is a great fight. But here, I want to take my little take on what happened with Jay Perrin and Cage Titans. Jay Perrin defends his belt at CES. He's not coming back to the regional scene anytime soon.
Exactly.
So it only makes sense for Pulver to not keep that belt up in the air for so long. Jay's got the fight with CES. He earned the title against Josh Smith. Now he has to defend that title. He defends that title successfully. He's going to the UFC. It's in my opinion, Mike's just trying to progress that division through Cage Titans in that manner. So I can't really blame either side. I still consider Jay the double champ, and I even will once either the party or Bugs has that belt around their waist. But until Jay goes to the UFC, which is going to happen in 2022, in my prediction, he's the double champ. He's number one. So he's got to be up there.
Speaking about Jay, I do believe CES was supposed to have a card before March. I don't know what was going on there. Last time I interviewed Jay, it was right before Christmas, and he was speaking about a card in either the end of January or beginning of February that he was going to defend his CES title against. He had an opponent already. The contract was signed. Then we found out, Jay put out a Instagram story that disappeared after a while that, the fight's off. Or not the fight, the card is off and it's being rescheduled. And now I just seen Jay put on another post that he'll be fighting in March and defending the title for CES in March. It probably is against the same opponent he was talking about on this podcast. But like you said, Travis, Jay defends that title, man. There's going to be no chance for him to defend it at Cage Titans. That kid's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did see that Jay posted earlier that it was I think he's got a different opponent now for CES. I believe he posted earlier today or yesterday that this new opponent, same goal. But the end goal here, he's moved out to Vegas from the East Coast. He's training in Vegas at one of the best schools in the country. He owns one of the best regional titles in the country. He goes on and defends that. And there's no way Dana White, who thinks he won on the Contender Series, cannot. I mean, it's not up to Dana White. Essentially, it's Sean Shelby and all those guys. But, somebody's got to make a stink about this guy not fighting for the UFC.
And for someone to make a stink will be Jay. Because
absolutely, he should by all rights. Because he's basically the New England bantamweight version of Chris Curtis at this point. What more does he have to do? I mean, Chris Curtis was a 30-fight veteran and he earned it more than anyone. But what more does Jay got to do to put himself on that roster? And I think the last box to check off is defending that CES world title, and then we won't see him back for a little while.
Well, yeah, we won't see him back. We'll have to go visit him, down the line there. But kudos to the Joker for number one, man, deservingly so. Jay and I, we talk offline a lot, dude. Me and him have things in common. We both don't get the recognition we deserve at times, even though he's an elite fighter and stuff like that. But we do have a lot of talks about shit behind the scenes. So I respect that kid. I know he's very verbal, but he's confident as fuck, and he knows he knows his path and where it's leading to. So kudos to that motherfucker.
Absolutely.
So guys, let's move on to Bantamweight Amateurs, and then we're down after that to Flyweight, and we're out of here. So let's get the Bantamweight Amateurs, guys. Here we go. Leading the path is the NEF Bantamweight Amateur Champion there, and Felipe Gunter, man. I had the opportunity to meet him for the first time at NEF 45, where Chelsea Tucker interviewed him, and a very humble kid and very impressive kid, grinding kid, and had a very quick fight at NEF. Let's talk about this division and the prospects we see here.
Yeah, Felipe Gunter, number one, easy decision. Honestly, a lot of the amateur weight classes were pretty cut and dried in my eyes. Felipe Gunter 4-0. Kid is a massive 135er. I don't know how he cuts down to 135. I'm not sure if he's ever had weight issues getting there, but he's a big, big dude for 135. Trains at First Class MMA under John Rao. He's definitely evolved and is a kid to keep an eye on. But number two, Andrew Valdina. We see him again. This kid, Lozon MMA, standout. Kid's a stud. I would love to see those two go at it. Number one and number two. But Andrew Valdina definitely deserves to be where he's at. I don't know too much about Jason Ramcharan. I've never seen him fight. I'm not sure if you guys have.
No.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Travis.
I believe he was a premier guy, was he not?
Where's Ammo? I think he fought at Ammo.
He has fought at Ammo too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
He
they switch fighters a lot. Them fighters go
Right.
back and forth from ammo.
Yeah, so he's a Western Mass guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we all know Mpofu pretty well. Henry Clark hasn't fought in a little while. But when it comes to this division, one guy who really impressed me last time out was Jake Dillon at number 7. Big dude as well. He was very impressive in his last fight. But when it comes to this weight class, I'm looking at those top 3 and saying, yeah, any of them have a chance to be number 1. But I'd love to see a round robin tournament with those top 3.
As we
or top 4. I mean, you put Arthur in there too.
Yeah, well, as we know, Andrew Valdina will be he'll be going against Arthur Mapufu for the Cage Titans 135 amateur belt there. Arthur's been busy. He's been fighting in other organizations, or at least one, getting some action there. So he's been
he
active.
fought out in Ohio.
What's that?
Ohio at B2. He fought out in Ohio at B2. I actually know that one of their matchmakers and the promoter out there. So it was kind of cool to see him link up out there.
Cool. And as we know, he did hold the Cage Titans Bantamweight amateur title at one time, correct?
Yeah, and he lost to Jeff Joy, right?
Yes. All right. There you go. Thank you, Travis. So this is he's going for that belt. He could own that belt for the second time in his amateur career. What are you thinking about? I mean, we not really want to talk about matches, but we've been talking about them because they're on the list here. That's a high profile fight there. I see whoever wins this fight is going pro right after.
Yeah, I think you could definitely say that. Valdina and Pofu, that's going to be the battle for number 2, essentially. Unless Felipe Gunter comes down to Cage Titans, it would be hard to gauge that. An impressive win for Arthur or Andrew could push them ahead of Gunter if Gunter doesn't fight in the next couple months. It's just one of those things. Like Lars said, the top 3 or 4 here could shuffle with one of them falling or one of them having an impressive win. It's just a good tight top 4 here.
And a couple of guys down at the end of the list that have been there against nothing but beast. Brett Layton, that kid, he's a grinder. Another Lozon kid there. You can't sleep on that kid. Wrestling background, and he goes in there and he just throws leather unless it hits the ground, man. So we have a lot of potential as far as amateurs in this division, man. New England's killing it.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, there's something about Valdina that just catches my eye. His movement, his fluidity, his technique, it's next level. And he's a guy that when you watch fight, he's very smart in the cage as well. I could see him being a guy we're talking about in our pro rankings over the next few years, and who knows where it goes from there. He's obviously training at the best camp in New England. So, I got kind of Andrew Valdina circled on my list here as a guy to watch out for in the future.
He's got a huge following, a huge backing, and it goes without saying, when you have that much potential and you are a prospect like that, people are going to be drawn to you. He's a good kid. Out of the cage, he's doing everything right. I think he's 24 years old, 23 or 24. And he's already, thinking ahead. I talked to him a couple of days ago. I said, hey, let's get an interview in. And he goes, dude, I want to get a couple more sponsors before we do an interview so I can blast it out when we actually do an interview, and I can give everyone support and respect for jumping on the team. So that kid is giving back, man. Whoever sponsors that kid or helps him out, man, he's definitely going to pay them forward in so many ways. The kid's definitely a prospect. He's got a big fight ahead of him. Arthur Mapufu is no joke. I love that kid too, man. I missed him. I haven't seen him fight locally in a while. So it's going to be interesting talking to these two title participants in the next couple of weeks about what they're thinking about this matchup.
Yes, I agree.
I want to add a little tidbit of information. I think Lars, you may be able to agree with this, and Steve yourself. We see a lot of guys from Lausanne's on here, and I think a lot of the guys, when it came to like, I don't know if this guy's numbered in the top 10. When you look and see that the Lausanne's tag is beside their name, that's worth a lot to us. It's the biggest camp in New England. Straight killers come out of there. So I think we've touched on a lot of his fighters tonight, and I think it goes without saying that when you come from Lausanne's, there's just something different. And I think a lot of guys, stock rises real quick when they're training out of there, and as it should.
And what people don't see behind the scenes is I'm at Cage Titans, and Cage Titans has a plethora of Lausanne fighters there, revolving door. When I'm in the back interviewing them, Joe Lausanne, unless he's cornering the next fighter heading to the cage, he's back there with them. And the inspirational speeches and just like the camaraderie and the humor and sarcasm he has with these fighters, win or lose, is fucking incredible. When I'm back there listening to him and just watch him, and even like him, busting Peter Barrett's balls about his fucking his punk rock vest, saying, dude, get the, like just fucking with these guys. He makes them just like feel, put their guard down, that which makes them absorb exactly what he's saying to them. He has a way.
He's got a certain way.
He has a way with these
He's got a
fighters,
certain way
man.
with his guys. Yeah.
They're crying. Dan Walsh, that first fight, amateur fight of the year, 2021. He's crying in the back room with happiness. And, Joe's busting his balls, telling him to stop crying like a fucking baby. You got an interview coming, all right? So, he knows what buttons to press and when to put you on when you need to be on, and when you need, and he lets you be a human, which is fucking incredible to watch.
Yeah, it is awesome.
There's something to be said for that. The relationship between coach and fighter. There's a lot of coaches who are hard-nosed, and, there's that barrier there. Lausanne does a really good job of breaking down that barrier and having that intimate relationship that goes beyond just coaching. It's, relating to somebody who's feeling these emotions, and obviously that guy can relate. There's definitely something to be said for that. So, respect that camp and Joe Lausanne to the fullest.
Excellent. Icon and Hall of Famer right there. So, guys, our last weight class of the 2021 end of the year New England MMA rankings is flyweight. Do you want to start with amateur flyweight or pro flyweight, guys?
Keep it going. Same way.
I got it locked and loaded. We got the flyweight pros coming up right now. Here we go. Number 1. Blaine Shutt. The shutdown. The CES World Flyweight Champion. Number one. Guys, let's talk about it.
All right, I'll take the lead here. Blaine Shutt, really the biggest title in New England that you can own is CES. I mean, Lopez holds the reality title, but has lost the title at CES to Blaine Shutt. So it just works out that Blaine Shutt is number 1 here. Now, Mitch Raposo, he definitely deserves some shine. Young kid. Took a leap of faith going on to the Ultimate Fighter. I'm sure he's learned a lot. No longer undefeated, but he definitely deserves to be up here in the top 3 or 4. There's no question about that, and that's where he stands at number 2. Johnny Lopez after that. We've already talked about his fight coming up with Cupcakes Campbell. Lopez could be any position here as well. 1 through 3. We'll learn a lot about what he's got left in the tank against Cupcakes this weekend. Tim Flores, he's looked pretty good. Coming out of he was out of FAA, 3-1, grinding victory at CES last time out. Then we got Josh Rickey here coming in number 5. We really haven't seen a lot of him recently, but what we have seen of him has always been a gamer at 25, willing to take on the top opponents. So he deserves that number 5 spot. Justin Valentin coming down here, putting him at number 10. A lot of hype behind him coming out of Bissett's camp. He may be 2-2, but the sky's the limit for him. Super athletic, another kid that could reel off a couple wins and put himself up into the top 5. So, yeah, really good list of guys here.
Can I jump in there? Justin Valentin will be fighting at Reality on January 8th alongside his cousin, Johnny Lopez. And Erica Valentin will also be on that card. We got and Ant Alvarado out of Bissett. Yep. So they got 4 guys, or 3 guys and 1 lady heading to Reality Fight on the 8th. And to get back at Ant, he is on our amateur list there back. We didn't get to mention him for time, but that kid is putting on a hurting. Bissett's gym, Underdog MMA out there in Connecticut, New London, I think it is, or around that area. They are putting a hurt. Matt Bissett is grooming some talent along with Russell Leak over there at Underdog MMA.
Yeah, I think this division, I think it came down between Shutt and Raposo, and Shutt was the number 1 ranked flyweight last time we did these rankings as well. And Shutt, full disclosure, we manage Blaine Shutt. So we've been working to get him a fight with CES and defend that belt, for over a year, and it's been a struggle. So we've been kind of forced to look elsewhere. He's fought for Bellator up a weight class at 135, but he needs to be active. He needs to be fighting. So he's fighting for Bellator on the 29th in Phoenix, Arizona at 135, but we know his home's at 125. We'd love to see him fight Mitch Raposo for the CES belt. We tried to line that up a few months ago, didn't work out. Hopefully, things change here in the near future, but that's an obvious matchup to make. If you're CES, if you're Blaine Shutt, if you're Mitch Raposo. So hopefully timelines can work out and that can get locked up, and that will decide who's the number 1 ranked flyweight in New England. But for now, Blaine Shutt retains it. He holds the belt. Somebody's got to come get it. That should be a fun one if it ever happens. And then, another kid who really catches my eye is Tim Flores. I interviewed him after his last win down at CES. Super nice kid. He's fought all the way up to 145 at one point, but he's got some talent, FAA product, and he's on a roll. So keep an eye out for that kid. He could easily jump up in that top 3 over the next 6 to 12 months.
I would love to see Flores against Mitch Raposo down the line. Those guys kind of look alike as far as their
similar build.
Yeah, similar build, wrestling, ground guys there. If we're going for their bread and butter, they like to grind down there. And Tim Flores, man, he's been on, like you said, a tear. I think his only loss was maybe late notice against an actual 135 or a 140 pound guy.
I think it was at 145.
At Reality. So he took that fight late notice because he sold 1 million tickets, and sometimes you gotta do what the fuck you gotta do. And Tim Flores is no easy task to beat, and I would love, if the fight doesn't happen between him and Blaine, I would love to see Tim Flores against Mitch Raposo down the line if those guys don't go to the next level before then.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I like any of those matchups.
All right, guys. As you said, Blaine will be fighting for Bellator. I know that Mitch mentioned something. He was taking the holidays off, And he did mention, I think he did mention something he has in the works down the line. I don't know what that could be. I want to say, if he's going to fight locally, it's going to be, of course, CES or Cage Titans. So it'll be interested to see what happens with Mitch Raposo in the future, especially after Blaine fights and Johnny Lopez fights. There's a lot of opportunity here and a lot of matchups to be made, depending on what happens at on the 8th and at not CES at Reality. So with that said, where are we? We at Flyweight Amateurs.
Last one. We've been doing this for 2 hours.
Fuck, man. Yeah, we expected to go an hour and we expected to go an hour and a half, but we really had to emphasize on these the 185 pounders down, because they are the excitement in New England as far as matchups and potential and prospects out there. So let's go with the Flyweights Amateurs of New England. As should be, Nate Russell is a #1 amateur flyweight of New England. Nate, as we know, did beat who did he beat at CES? Not CES, at Cage Titans for the belt there.
Joe
Poirier. Okay.
Joe Poirier.
So Nate had a pretty easy fight in that, which Nate's been around for a long time. He could turn pro at any time, but dude, he's in no hurry. He's a family man, has a great job. He's having fun out there, sharpening skills. Another FAA guy. And Nate recently fought out of state for another title. He came away with a loss there, but that's only showing that this kid's going for bigger and better things and staying busy. So let's talk about this division, fellas, and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Nate Russell, man, he's got a ton of fights under his belt as an amateur, and he doesn't care who he fights. And I love that, and any amateur fighters out there who are listening, it's like, you're an amateur. If the weight class makes sense, go fight guys. Get the experience. Like, you obviously want to kind of step up levels in competition as you move forth, but don't shy away from competition at the amateur level. Once you turn pro, then you got to kind of start to evaluate things at a deeper level. But Nate Russell has that mentality, and he deserves to be at the top of this pile here. And then 2 and 3 are two guys that just fought each other. Tyler Smythe and Caleb Austin, they fought at NEF 45, their last card. Smythe came away with a 4th round TKO victory. Looked super impressive there. Solid grappler. He out-grappled and out-wrestled Caleb Austin, who's a state champion wrestler. So he trains at Evolution Athletics. Kid's got some talent there, but he's still green. So I'm curious to see how his striking evolves over the next few fights that he has. I don't know much about Casey Norton, to be honest. But Joe Poirier was, I think, number 2 in our last rankings. He's fallen to 6 after his loss to Russell. Russell's fight IQ and his experience just showed through in that fight. And Poirier, he just took the fight to Poirier, and Poirier had no answers for him. So I think that was good for Poirier to understand that, his first 2 fights, he looked incredible. And all of a sudden, it brought him down a notch and will make him a better fighter in the long run. But looking at this division, I think this is solid rankings here, man. And one guy that really caught my eyes last fight out was Rich Martel. He's only 1-0, but he looked super impressive in his debut at NEF. So that's somebody to keep an eye on. But these are legit. Nate Russell deserves to be there. Tyler Smythe and Caleb Austin, they just fought. They deserve to be where they're at. And there could be some shakeup here in the coming months. I'm not sure if anyone's on tap.
Yes, here's the shakeup right now. Tyler Smythe will be defending his title against a past amateur title holder in Ryan Burgess.
Ryan Burgess, right? Yep.
Who they had a verbal war. It's died down now because now we're getting down to the grind time when these guys got to really batten down the hatches. And it's 4 weeks out. These guys, the verbal war is over. Now it's time to train and put the money where the mouth is. So Yeah, so there are guys active in this division that are going to be moving either up or down in the next few months, man. Jake Bagley, we haven't heard of him in a while. He's got a business he's running, a family he's taking care of. I did speak to him a couple of cards back at Cage Titans where we were hanging out. And, he's still at the cage, lurking at people coming out of the cage. And he's always gung-ho for a fight in the future. But at this point, man, he is not, one of those prospects that's, really grinding on, on the mats right now, getting ready, to come out in 2022 as, as active. You know what I mean? So I got to give it to the guys up there in the top band. These guys have been fighting, for whatever cards Neff had or any other cards around, to stake their claim in this division. So the rankings are definitely where they should be here.
Yeah, I think Poirier might have fallen a little too far here. I think he could easily be up at 4. And yeah. I know the last time I talked to Jake Bagley, he wants to fight Joe. So I think the fact that they are right close together makes a whole lot of sense. If Jake wants to get in the gym and start getting in shape, Jake lets him fly like no one else. That'd be a fun fight with Joe. But yeah, top 3 really stand out to me. Pretty high on Smythe coming out of Evolution. So yeah, I like this list until someone else tries to take away what the top 3 have. The top 3 is pretty solid here.
To get back at Jake, Jake's got a win over Andrew Valdina. He's got a TKO over Valdina. He fought Nate Russell for was it the Premier title or was the Ammo title? And
Ammo.
He did get finished by Nate Russell, but, as we know, Nate Russell is like either grinding you out on a win or finishing you. So,
yep.
His last couple of fights have been big fights. And as we know, Jake was supposed to fight Dave DeReo for the Flyweight Amateur Championship at Cage Titans a while back. That fight fell through, David getting injured. And that's when I think Jake kind of fell off the path and just started getting his business together and, thinking about the family and saving some money. And we'll get to fighting sometime in, hopefully in the middle of 2022.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jake's still hungry. It's just there's so much going on in his personal life that, the ring isn't really where he needs to be. He needs to be a father to his kids. He needs to be, heading up that company that he runs, and he's doing the right thing there.
Excellent, guys. Well, guys, we're just, I think, about done here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 2 guys last words. And as you're having last words, I'm going to throw up all the pro rankings all on one poster here. And I'll let Lars start it off. Lars, you got 2 minutes. And then Travis, you got 2 minutes. And as you're talking, I'm going to flash between the amateur and the pro full rankings here. So right now I'll throw the pros out there. So start it off, Lars.
Fucking 2 minutes, seriously?
You get fucking 2 minutes, man. We'd be going like a half hour longer than we're supposed to.
Yeah, I need like 15 seconds. I'm about to fall asleep.
All right, wait. Give me a minute. I gotta go. Give me a minute. I gotta go
I'm
pee.
tired, man.
I gotta go pee.
All right.
Lars.
Well, I'll give a shout out to the Spicy Shark, our sponsor. Once again, go check them out. The best hot sauce you'll ever have. Spicy Shark, thespicyshark.com. Enter code NEMA, NEMMA. You get a 10% discount. They got a bunch of different stuff there. Probably 8 or 9 hot sauces. They got some syrups that are spiced up. They got some wing sauces. So check them out. Local New England company, which fits in perfectly with our kind of our world here in New England-based MMA. So check out thespicyshark.com. Tell them we sent you. You will not be disappointed. I use this shit pretty much on every meal that I eat. So, it's fun. This is a good time, Travis. We rattled off 18 different, weight classes, pro and ami, which is a daunting task, and
I'm back.
we're going on 2.5 hours now. So if somebody thinks that we don't have a passion for this and don't like this type of shit, they're idiots. I will challenge anybody to, you know, show me somebody else or some other organization has the passion that we do for doing this and giving these guys the shine. We do this for the love of it. We don't make any money doing it. We barely pay the bills. But we're constantly on the road, going to fights, interviewing fighters. And we don't do this for any shine ourselves. We do this to give these guys exposure and to have a resource for fans in New England to go to and to kind of get content. So, we love this, and it's a lot of hard work, but it's a labor of love and a passion that I have that isn't fading. And I'll be here till the wheels fall off.
Travis?
Yeah, really just want to say that I'm truly blessed to be part of the team with you guys. This is a fun thing to do. It's fun to be back into the swing of things following the holidays. I did want to bounce it back to Lars real quick about an individual he may have spoken to the past couple of days on the phone who might need a little bit of support. He hasn't always been in the forefront of things, and people may or may not know him from New England MMA, but it's definitely a worthy cause and something that we think pretty highly of here in the New England MMA, in the brethren. So, yeah. Let Lars take this one.
Good call. There's a pretty big fan of mixed martial arts in the region who's being diagnosed with some pretty severe cancer. Mike Shorey, who is up in, I think, the Dover Foxcroft area of Maine. He's been to plenty of NEF events. He knows all the fighters. He's very active on social media. He was given some pretty tough news recently in terms of a cancer diagnosis that the prognosis isn't great. So, we want to shout out Mike Shorey for, being a fan and supporting these athletes and supporting our platform. And, if you can help out, he's got a GoFundMe, and so that's up. He could always use the help financially. He can't work right now, obviously. He's going through chemo. And so if you can help out by donating to Shorey's GoFundMe or just send him some words of encouragement, I'm sure he'd appreciate it. And, hopefully we'll see him at the NEF show here in 4 or 5 weeks. But shout out to Mike Shorey, and keep fighting, brother.
And as, Mike's been doing, even before he was ill, he gives shout outs constantly to MMA fighters for your accomplishments, for anything you put out there. It's magnified now because he needs the love back. You need to look at him. You need to help him out. And, the last, the few months that we might have with him, as Lars and Travis spoke, man, he's been a very big supporter of New England MMA. And, we're looking to help him out and make him and his family as comfortable as possible, in 2022. So whatever you can do, we'll be mentioning him again in the week or coming weeks on our podcast. We'll devote a lot of time to giving him the best possible support we can, in a time of need. So guys, man.
Yeah, and I just posted in the chat here on YouTube he's got a PayPal fundraiser set up. It ends in 2 days, but I also know he has a GoFundMe. So we'll put that information out there on our website soon. But I did post his PayPal fundraiser in the chat if anybody's interested in donating to that.
Excellent, guys. Well, dudes, man, I haven't talked to you guys this lengthy in a fucking long time. I mean, we talk almost every day, but not this. This is special, guys. We got to do this more often. Maybe keep it down to like 45 minutes, just talking about up and coming topics. Maybe something we saw on arguments, on comments between fighters that we can bring to life to maybe bring spotlight to a matchup that some fighters that you guys might not see in the comments have a rumbling and maybe have a grudge against each other. I think we'll work something out, guys, that we can get together every couple of weeks, have a podcast together, even if it's for a half hour, just inform New England on what's going on, what we know, and not to give out all the beans, just enough to entice you to tune in every so often. But
it's funny. We I don't think we've done this for over a year.
Yeah.
Like us three. So we definitely got to do it. But you'll be surprised the beans that we have that we don't release. And maybe we'll trickle out some beans a little bit more if we're going to do this more often. But,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we hold, and here's the thing, like, we hold beans in, and we're like, should we release them? And then the next day, fucking some other site releases them, and then we're like kicking ourselves. But the cream rises, man. I think we have the best team in New England as far as media. And we're always looking to add to our media team in all facets, podcasts, interviewers, other people out there that have the passion that we do. We're looking for a producer for the Room podcast. If you want to come in hanging every so often and press a button for me, I'll show you how to do it. You just got to have thick skin and be as fun as hell, or I'll fucking torture you in this place. So,
Tapology, go fuck yourself.
And as I did say in the last couple of days, you guys need to go look at Tapology and compare their rankings to ours, and I think ours are the most legit. There might be some you don't agree on in here, but all in all, I think at least 90% of our rankings can't be argued with. And I will put my name and my backing and the 12 or 13 other people that contributed to get these out, man. It wasn't an easy task, man. It was like taking a fucking essay, like taking a fucking SAT to get into fucking the higher level, man. It is what it is. So with that said, Lars, and I want to also say I'm proud of these two guys right here, not only for all they've done in the time and before the time in New England A, but the future, full contact management. I'm a part of these guys. I'm still support everyone that wants to, come on the show, talk about their fights and shit. But at this point in the podcast, it's hard for me to reach out to so many people and get a fair share. I need you people to come to me and want to be on the show. The invite's always there. I want more of this. I want more people to want to come on the show. So put your name, put your names out there. Contact us. It doesn't matter what it is. MMA, just something that's important that needs to be spoken about. Come on the show.
Yeah, if you have any questions about shipping through the U.S. Postal Service, you want to reach out to Steve.
I'm the man. I just got a new job too, and I'll talk about that down the line. But, with that said, guys, anything else you want to say before I let you go? And don't fucking hang up on me until I fucking stop all this shit. So with that said, follow us on YouTube, which you're watching this at right now. This podcast, not that you're gonna. It'll be on Spotify tomorrow sometime. I'm too tired to do it.
Subscribe
tonight.
Subscribe to our channel.
To our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook, on the internet, on Twitter, on Instagram, everywhere. We're even on fucking TikTok now, motherfuckers.
Grindr.
So grind around, Grindr. Look at this face. You don't think any gay guys want to fucking grind this. So with that said, don't leave, guys. I'm putting on the intro and we're out of here. With that said, guys and ladies, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week. I'll be in full throttle podcast mode, interview mode next Tuesday, hitting up fucking everyone in Neff and everyone in fucking the Cage Titans world. And whoever else wants to be on the show, contact us. My door's always open. With that said, we out of here. Don't hang up, motherfuckers. Spicy Shock, baby. Check them out. We out.